Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If it looks like I'm wearing the same shirt and I'm standing in the same exact location as the last canning video you saw, that's because I am. Today I am canning more things, and so I'm making another video, obviously, to share it because putting everything in the last video would have gotten way too long. But I'm also starting to edit that video today and realized I didn't have an intro or an outro for that. So I got my camera. My camera was already out because I'm canning, but I filmed like a little intro clip and an outro clip for that video and decided since I'm standing here and we're doing this, I might as well get this one going as well. So like I said, today's going to be another canning video. At the time I'm filming this intro, today I'm currently working on 2 recipes, but I know there will be more in this video by the time you're seeing it. It's that time of year where all of the garden vegetables are ready to go, and today's recipes actually are tomato recipes, or tomato based recipes, because my mom bought a whole lot of tomatoes and then didn't use them all, so gave them to me so that I could process some of them as well. We were not able to grow our own garden this year because of when we moved into this house, but next year I have plans for a very big garden, and with that will come all of the canning next fall as well, but with our own stuff instead of having to buy from other people. The majority of the stuff that I am canning now, or have canned though, whatever I can purchase from farmers markets or local farmers or anything like that, I have, with the exception of a couple recipes that were in my last video. I just bought everything from the store that I needed for those. All of the recipes I'm using will be linked down in the description as always. You can also find timestamps down there. If you select the timestamp, it will take you exactly to the point of the video where that section starts. It's helpful if you are here specifically looking for something, or if you'd like to come back and reference it in the future. Thank you for being here. Let's get into it.
Starting out with ketchup. So first I needed to core the tomatoes, cut them, and it did say to remove some of the seeds. I removed as much as possible, but I didn't want to take too much away from the actual tomato. So I probably could have removed more, but I didn't. And you strain it later anyway, so it didn't really matter. And then you also, as you're cutting them, you put them into a big stock pot and you're going to add in onions. Now I just had some onion already sliced up in the fridge, so I used that. It was about equivalent to 1 onion, and I think I used about 5 pounds of tomatoes, and they were weighed before I took the core and the seeds and everything out. And then some garlic, and then you're going to put this pot onto the stove and just let it simmer. Nothing else goes in there, and it'll start to break down the tomatoes. And then you want to drain as much of the liquid off of that as you can. Then you're going to put it in a blender and you blend it up until it's as smooth as you can get it. And then you have to strain it. So just like with, what else have I made? Enchilada sauce. Did I make something else that I had to strain it to? I don't remember. Maybe this was it. But you have to strain it. So I just have a mesh strainer and I poured the mixture in there and then used a rubber spatula to kind of push it through the grates. I really need to invest in one of those like actual canning. I still don't remember what it's called. I've been told since my last video what it's called and I can't remember. But you finish that with all of your mixture, and then you're going to add in sugar, vinegar, salt, cumin, cayenne, celery seed, nutmeg, and salt and pepper. Bring it to a boil first, and then you let it simmer, and you just want to wait until it's whatever consistency you like for ketchup. I think I let mine simmer for like 2.5-3 hours, and it was good for me. This made 4 half pints, so it doesn't make a ton. I liked the taste of it. We haven't actually opened it up yet and used any of it because we still had some ketchup like in our pantry and our back stock, so I don't know yet if my kids like it. It wasn't as sweet as store-bought, that is for sure. But we also have been buying like the less sugar one anyway, so they'll probably be fine. But these are water bath canned. So after you fill your jars, and these needed 1-inch headspace, you put your lids on and then your rings finger tight, and then put them into the boiling water. Now, I only have 4 here, so I did fill the rest of my pot with empty jars so that if there's any movement, nothing falls over and breaks in the canning process. Fill the water above the jars, so it's like an inch or 2 above the jars, and then bring it to a boil. Once it's boiling, that's when you start your processing time. After the timer goes off, you remove them, set them on a counter onto a cloth. You don't want to put them directly on the counter. And then I moved on to tomato sauce just because there were so many tomatoes left and I figured that was an easy way to use them up. So I started with just coring the tomatoes. Also, these tomatoes had been sitting for a little while since between like when they were picked by the farmer, when my mom purchased them, and then when I got them to process them. So there were some spots on them that were getting bad, but the whole tomato wasn't bad. So I just took out the bad parts or like cut the core a little bigger around where it was kind of getting gross. But anyway, you just cut these up and put them into, I used a roasting pan. You could also put them straight into your oven and roast them that way. Also, I have my windows open today and the neighbor's dogs bark all the time, and I really hope that it's not too loud. So if it is, I'm really sorry about that, but I need to get this done. Anywho, back to the tomatoes. If you wanted a flavored tomato sauce, you would also, this is where you would add maybe onions or different seasonings that you wanted, garlic, anything like that. I just wanted a plain tomato sauce so that we could use it in whatever we needed to. And then also later on, if we needed it for something specific, we would add the seasonings in at that time. After it had been roasting for maybe an hour or so, a lot of the liquid will start to come off of the tomato. So you need to go in and take that out and get as much liquid out as possible. So I just used a ladle and a bowl to do this. It took quite some time. Like I'm not going to say this was a fast process. And then I let it sit for another hour and then went back and got more of the juices out, let it sit for another hour. I think I let it sit for between 3 to 4 hours, and I had the temp maybe in like the 250 range. And you just want to keep cooking them until they're broken down completely. Depending on the method that you use for this and the temp you use will determine how long it takes. But after they're fully broken down, they're really mushy, you can't really tell they're tomatoes, you're going to put them in a blender and just blend them up really, really well. Like as fine as you want your tomato sauce to be. And then in each jar, you want to add some lemon juice. I added about a tablespoon to each jar, and then fill them up. With your tomato sauce, you do want the jars to be hot because your tomato sauce is still going to be hot even after blending it and all of that. It's still going to be very warm, and you don't want your glasses to shatter. Make sure to remove any bubbles because this might be just a little bit chunkier. And I did do that with the ketchup, I just didn't show it. And then you're going to do the same process. Lids, rings. These were also water bath canned, and I got these 4 half pints and then 1 pint. One of these did not seal, and I ended up just using it to make sloppy joes later on.
Today I am going to be doing some canning. I wanted to also get pickles done today, but I don't have all of the things for it. So I'm just going to do one pressure canning recipe today, and I'm going to be doing sloppy joe mix. or what do other people call it? Taverns, Maidrites. Heard somebody call it an Untitled Joseph. So loose meat sandwich, whatever you call it. It has like a tomato-based sauce, meat, all of that. I first need to gather all of my supplies because I have done nothing except I have jars sitting here just because they were there already, but I need to get everything else out and then we'll go ahead and get into it.
Here's the recipe for the sloppy joe meat. I will leave this recipe down below. I did modify it. I also have the recipe because I didn't want to make quite as much, especially if we weren't going to like it. We do like it though. We had a couple not seal that we tried and it was good. I even closed my windows and you can still hear the dogs barking. Guys, I'm so sorry. And also I'm sorry about the camera not being in focus. It was focusing on the brown sugar in the background and not actually what I was doing.
Like being on my own, I could use someone to hold, and I've been trying to fill the void, but my bed is getting cold, cause I don't have you.
I did add onions and garlic, and I wanted them as fine as possible so that the people in my family that don't care for chunks of onions couldn't actually tell it was in there. I added those into a pot, like a soup pot, and then my ground beef. Just cooked that until the ground beef was completely cooked through.
I don't have us, at least not anymore. Said you had to go away just to figure out who you are, and I'm in this empty house with your pictures on my wall, but I don't have you, I don't have us, at least not anymore. Now I'm just waiting for love.
And then I did remove as much of the grease as possible. We have pretty lean meat. We got it from, like, we paid to have it processed by a meat locker ourselves and all of that, and so it doesn't get too fatty. And then you're going to add in your seasonings, so garlic powder, onion powder, salt, pepper, smoked paprika, yellow mustard. Again, I'll leave it down below because I feel like I'm forgetting something. I added Worcestershire. You add ketchup, and I just use the store-bought ketchup, not my homemade here. Tomato sauce and some water so that it's like has some liquid when you go to can it. This is going to be pressure canned. So filling it up, it needed an inch headspace, and on a few of them I filled them too full, and I had to go back in with a spoon later and kind of take some of it out so that they were all at the right level. And because this is chunks of meat, it's really important that you remove the air out of there. Lids, rings, like with water bath canning, and then I have an electric pressure canner, so it will fit 7.5 pints, and then you add in 8 cups of water. And I have the green weight on the top because of my elevation is above 11,000, not 11, I did this last time too, above 1,001 feet. So we need the green knob for the pressure. You close it and set it to exhaust. Start with your time. It's going to come to kind of pressure or heat up. Then it counts down from 10. It'll beep at you when it's done doing that. Then you put it to airtight. It'll come to pressure, and then it'll count down from the timer that you put in there, and then you need to let it sit for 1 hour before you remove the jars. And then same with water bath canning, putting them on the counter on a towel or something of that nature for 12 to 24 hours so it can completely cool.
Waiting for love, try to forget about you makes me restless. Waiting for love, waiting for love. I don't know what else I can do. It's hopeless to behold.
Next, I'm moving on to some dill pickles. Our neighbor had given us some cucumbers from his garden, and I knew that I would not eat through them all, so I thought what better way to do them than pickles. I have some bread and butter pickles still down in the basement from the last time I made those. And so I'm just cutting them into chunks. They were kind of thick, so I couldn't make them all circles. I had to just kind of do chunks of them, but I mean, like, who really cares? It's a pickle. And then the recipe also calls for a clove of garlic in each jar and a few slices of onion. So I was getting those ready as well.
I guess we forgot about the way we could sit and talk all night. We just let the good times pass and got caught up in our fights. I say I don't mind, but that's a lie. Thought we'd work it out. I've tried to let you go. Memories, they tend to
And then when you're pickling, you need to make a brine. These pickles did not cook the cucumbers in the brine first. You just add the brine to the jar later. To make the brine, it is water, vinegar, and pickling or canning salt, not regular table salt, kosher salt, anything like that. There's a specific salt for canning. And I use that. You put it on the stovetop until the salt dissolves all the way, and then filling up the jars. So 1 clove of garlic in each, and then some dill, fresh dill. And then I modified this a little bit because I couldn't find all of the spices that it needs, but I put in black peppercorns and it was like a pickling spice blend that had mustard seeds and coriander and dill seed and some other things in there. I don't remember everything. And then adding in the cucumbers, you do want to smush them down a little bit so that it's nice and full. And then you ladle in the pickling brine on top of that. And these ones needed a 1/2 inch headspace if I remember correctly. And then you definitely want to make sure you get the bubbles out of this because of those cucumbers shoved in there. You can see the bubbles are kind of coming up as I fill it, and then also when I stick that tool down in there to release the bubbles, you can see the bubbles pop to the top. If you don't do that, they'll release during the canning process and can cause either too much siphoning, so the liquid in your cans can come out into like your water bath canning liquid, or it won't seal properly. Same process, lid, ring in the water 1 to 2 inches above. Let it come to a boil, start your processing time. And then I also had some zucchini that he had brought over, and I didn't know what to do with it. And so I went ahead and just did the same dill pickle process to the zucchini. Same ingredients, same process. That made me think of better ingredients, better pizza at Papa John's. But it was the same thing.
Doesn't matter anyway, 'cause it won't be you and me. Now I'm just waiting for love, waiting for love. Try to forget about you makes me restless. Waiting for love, waiting for love. I don't know what else I can do, it's hopeless too.
And that is the last thing I have to share with you for this canning video. Sometime soon I'll give you an updated little tour of our basement shelves because they're getting nice and full and I love it. I also have some other things already up my sleeve, ready to go in my mind for what I'm going to can next. So I will have another canning video next month. But thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this gave you an idea of how to use up some of your food or how to bulk up your food storage. Don't forget to subscribe before you go if you aren't already, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.
Behold